one thing here. So you see, there was a question with a picture like this, right? And there was a red mark on this one on the end, right? So this is the optic chiasm, right? So what are these green fibers here? These are the nasal fibers, right? Nasal fibers, but they represent the temporal field of vision. So temporal field is this one, nasal field is this one. Look at this one. These fibers, because of the location, we call them nasal fibers. But which visual field do they represent? They represent temporal field. Now, if you have a damage to these green fibers here, then you will be losing the nasal fibers of both sides, which means you will lose the temporal field of vision on both sides. Okay. Now, these fibers which didn't cross the red ones, those are the ones they were marked actually in that exam question, in one of Dr. Meyer's question. Okay. So he put a red mark here on this side, which means he wanted to tell you that the temporal fibers of this individual is damaged. So remember, temporal fibers doesn't represent the temporal field of vision. The temporal fibers represent the nasal field of vision. So which field of vision he will be losing or she will be losing? That is the binasal, right? Because you lost the temporal fibers. You lose the nasal field of vision. So some of you missed that question. That was pretty surprising to me, actually. Did you understand that even though we call nasal fibers, they represent the temporal field, but we call them temporal fibers, they represent the nasal field. Are you clear about this concept? Anybody have any confusion, any question? No one? Okay. Then that is one thing. That was a bit surprising to me. Anyway, and so do you know the light reflex? Do you know what is light reflex? Anyone? No, you don't know light reflex? Okay. So this is, what is this one? This is optic nerve, right? And this is optic chiasm, and this is optic tract. So now the optic tracts, where do they come? They come to the thalamus in the lateral geniculate body, right? Lateral geniculate nucleus is located in thalamus. Now, before they reach the lateral geniculate in the thalamus, this is the midbrain, right? Some of the fibers, they leave the optic tract to come to the midbrain, where they come to the superior colliculus. You know, superior colliculus and inferior colliculus, they together form the tectum. So they enter the superior colliculus by the brachium of the superior colliculus. And then after coming here to the brachium of the superior colliculus, they come to the superior colliculus. And from there, you see, even though this is called tectum as well, now they end up in superior colliculus, they end up in pretectal nucleus. So from the pretectal nucleus, they go to the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, which is a nucleus related to cranial nerve 3 that control the pupil size. So that's how, if you shine light on this eye will be constricted, the pupil will be constricted. We call direct light reflex. But if you keep one eye closed, say I keep this eye closed and I shine light on this eye, this pupil will constrict, but the one that I am keeping it closed, so no light is going into that eye, that pupil also constricts. So how does that happen? Do you know that? Do you know? Also, do you know what it's called? It's called consensual light reflex. It's not direct, because I didn't even shine light on this one. This eye is closed, I shine light on this one. So this pupil will constrict. That makes sense, because this optic nerve will decussate in optic chiasm, optic tract, and then some fibers will come here to pretectal nucleus. From pretectal nucleus, it will go to the third nerve nucleus, and that's how third nerve will go, and oculomotor nerve will carry presynaptic parasympathetic for ciliary ganglia, and that's how the pupillary muscle will be constricted. Muscle will contract and pupil will be constricted. Now, how come this eye, pupil of this eye is constricted as well? Because as the fiber come here and from pretectal nucleus, when they go to third nerve nucleus, they go to third nerve nucleus of both sides. That's how this pupil also is constricted. The one that is, the light is not shine on the one, the eye that is closed, on which there is no effect on light, that also pupil constrict. We call it consensual light reflex. Are you familiar with this term, direct light reflex or consensual light reflex? Anyone?
I was not.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's move on. Let me quickly summarize because we are talking about the eye movement, right? Eye movement will be by, there are several muscles on the eye. We call them extraocular muscles. They are the ones who will eventually control the movement of the eye. Now, why do we need to move the eye? Now, if you think our eye as a tracking device, right? So you see, there are a lot of man-made tracking device, right? Do you see when they show a live, the sports, the camera is mounted on a stage, right? And then the camera moves, right, to capture the action, right? Where the stage is fixed, now the cameraman is moving the camera to capture the action. But so our eye is also a tracking device, right? That video camera that is tracking the action. But think about a mobile stage. This stage is not fixed. Our eyes are placed on the head, and head's position is not fixed. Our head keep moving. Now, if you want to track something, and if you want to fix your gaze on something, you're focusing on something, if your head moves, that is not a good thing, because the stage where the tracking device is placed, the stage is mobile, like our head. If you think of a tracking device placed on a ship, you see the ship is moving, which means your stage is moving. So in that case, to maintain focus on something, you have to have special mechanism, right? So there are several mechanisms for doing that, to stabilizing the gauge and redirecting the gauge. So there are, you see, number one is to fix your gauge on something, and number one is that two things can move. Either the object can move, so that you can move your tracking device so that you can still follow the object which is moving, or the object is fixed but your head is moving. So I'm keeping my focus on this PowerPoint, but as my head moves, I still want to keep my focus on this one. So in that case, as the platform is moving, I need to move my tracking device, my eyes, right? So in one case, your stage is moving or your head is moving. Your stage is the head, right? Or your stage is fixed, but your tracking device is moving. That makes it little complicated. And it's nothing complicated, but we need to, our eyes and our brain is very smart actually. So they know how to focus on things, even though either the object is moving or our stage is moving. Okay. So now, because those eventually, no matter what the neural mechanism is, eventually the movement will be carried out by the muscles that move the eyeball, okay, that move the eye. Now, look at this one. We have 6 extraocular muscle. There are 4 straight muscle. The straight is, the rectus means straight. There are 4 rectus muscles: superior rectus, inferior rectus. If you look at this one, it will be a little easier. So this is a straight muscle going from the top, we call superior rectus. This is on the lateral side, nose is here. This is the lateral side. So this is lateral rectus. This is medial rectus, and this is inferior rectus. These are 4 rectus muscle, which are straight muscle: superior, inferior, medial and lateral. And there are two oblique muscles. These are not straight, they are oblique. One is attached to the top of the eye, and then it goes through a pulley, which is called trochlea, and then goes to the back of the eye. We call it superior oblique. And then other one you look at here, coming from the back of the eye to the the bony orbit in the front. So this is the inferior oblique, just because of their position, superior oblique and inferior oblique. Now, so to remember these the nerve supply of the six extraocular muscles. See, look at the end, all of them, they come to the apex of this orbit. You see, this is the orbit here, a triangular area, and all the muscles eventually end up around the optic nerve in the apex of that orbit. Okay. Now, to remember the nerve supply, you see, three cranial nerves provide innervation to these six muscles. Mainly, it is done by oculomotor, cranial number 3. But two of them, this one, the superior oblique, it is innervated by trochlear nerve, and inferior oblique, that is so that inferior oblique is innervated by oculomotor as well. So to remember it, we use a mnemonic. We say LR6, means LR is lateral rectus. Lateral rectus is by sixth, which means sixth cranial nerve, which is abducens. And SO4, superior oblique, by 4. 4 means fourth cranial is trochlear, right? So lateral rectus by sixth cranial nerve, which is abducens, superior oblique by fourth cranial nerve, which is trochlear, and all others, other 4 by oculomotor. So remember LR6, SO4, the rest of them by 3. 3 is oculomotor, right? So that is the nerve supply, because nerve supply is absolutely important, because if you lose a nerve, the one muscle got denervated, that muscle will not move anymore, because muscles are driven by their motor nerves. Okay, so these are the three cranial nerves that provide innervation to the extraocular muscles of the eye. Now look at this one here again. You look at the extraocular muscle. Now see the lateral rectus. This is the lateral rectus. This is the nose is on this side. This is the lateral side. Lateral rectus is innervated by, look at the cranial nerve number 6. And this is the superior oblique. This is getting its innervation from cranial nerve number 4, and all others by cranial nerve number 3. So 3 is again oculomotor, 4 is trochlear, and 6 is abducens. Okay, and all these fibers, they are coming from the vestibular nuclei. As they go towards the brain, they all communicate with these 3 nerves, because the balance and eye movement is something very closely related. Because once you lose your balance or move your head, who will detect that your head is moved? That will be detected by your vestibular system, right? Vestibular system is located inside the ear. So inside the ear, we have 2 different things. One is the cochlea, which is responsible for hearing, and another very important thing, which is called semicircular canal, saccule, and utricles. They are responsible for the balance. Okay. So did Dr. Maya talk about the balance, or he was able to complete the I didn't see any question on the balance actually. So it was only hearing, right? Did he cover anything on the balance?
No, he didn't.
Okay. So of the vestibulocochlear nerve, you covered just cochlear division, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you know that there are 2 components of the 8th cranial nerve. 8th cranial nerve is called vestibulocochlear. One is the cochlear division of the vestibulocochlear. The other one is the vestibular division of vestibulocochlear. The vestibular division of the vestibulocochlear is responsible for the balance. Okay. And the cochlear division is responsible for hearing. Anyway, so these are the fibers that are mainly coming from vestibular nuclei, which are responsible for balance. As they head towards the brain, they give collateral to these nerves, which means they can modify the movement of the eye depending on the balance of the body. Okay. Now look at this one. So how these muscles will move the eye? It's pretty simple. Lateral rectus, nose is here at the midline. So lateral rectus will move the eye to the lateral side, right? Medial rectus will move the eye, will pull the eye towards the nose, towards the medial side. And then while the eye is moved on the medial side, inferior oblique will elevate the eye and superior oblique will depress the eye. Okay. And when the lateral rectus will move the eye to the lateral side, at that point, superior rectus will elevate the eye and inferior rectus will depress the eye. So that's how, if you look at the eye muscles, the way they are arranged, if you think about this one, if you have this muscle contracted, which way the eye will go? I will go towards the lateral direction. If this one contracts, I will go towards the medial direction. If you contract this one, then it will elevate the eye. See, the eye will move like this. And if you contract this one, the eye will go like this, which means the eyeball will be depressed. So and the superior oblique and inferior oblique are a little different, because you can see superior oblique will depress and inferior oblique will elevate the eye. So those are the actions. So now there are different neural mechanisms, but at the end of the day, think about the motor function. There are a lot of planning and programming going on in the basal ganglia, the frontal cortex, in the cerebellum, right? A lot of calculation take place over there. But at the end of the day, eventually the main execution will be coming from the primary motor area, right? Which is the precentral gyrus. Now, if you lose the precentral gyrus, your muscles will be paralyzed, because they are ultimately controlling the muscles. So the muscles will be paralyzed. If you lose basal ganglia, if you lose cerebellum, none of your muscles will be paralyzed. You can still move those muscles because they have their final nerve supply, but their movement will be grossly irregular. Okay, because you don't have good coordination in the absence of basal ganglia or cerebellum or frontal cortex. You cannot plan the movement properly. You cannot program the movement, or you cannot calculate it properly, so that there will be gross irregularities in your movement. Now, don't worry much about this one. There are a lot of nerves here, but the thing that I wanted to show you, I thought the vestibular system was covered. That's why I put this on. Otherwise, I would not even put this one here. So, but at least know that there are two nuclei in the midbrain. One is the cochlear nuclei that receive the fibers from cochlea of the inner ear, which is concerned with the sound. And there is another one, the vestibular nuclear complex, absolutely important. That is also located in the inner ear. They are called semicircular canals, sacules, and utricles. The nerve fiber that arise from there, they end up in the vestibular nuclei and they maintain our balance. Okay. Now look at the fibers that are coming from below, actually from the spinal cord, called the medial longitudinal fasciculus. These fibers from vestibular nuclei, they also join the medial longitudinal fasciculus, and see what are the three cranial nerve nuclei they are connecting. They connect to the sixth, fourth, and third. And all three of them are involved in the movement of the eyeball. 3 will innervate 4 muscles, 4 will innervate only one, which is trochlear, 6 will innervate one, which is lateral rectus. Okay, so 4 rectus muscle and 2 oblique, only superior oblique will be innervated by trochlear, and the abducens, the lateral rectus will be innervated by abducens, which is 6th nerve, and rest of the muscles will be innervated by third. Here you can see third cranial nerve. And also you see some of the fibers, they go, even though visual area is here. You know the visual area, right? It's around here on the area 17, 18, on the occipital lobe, around the calcarine sulcus. So this sulcus is called the calcarine sulcus. And on the bank of the calcarine sulcus, this is your primary visual area. This is not the primary visual area. These are association areas which are responsible for the fixing the eye on something. And this is called the involuntary fixation area, but the voluntary fixation area is located in the frontal, in the frontal lobe. Now, if you think this one is a central sulcus, this will be the pre-central gyrus, which is the main motor area. This is the post-central gyrus, which is the primary sensory area. And this is the lateral sulcus, which divide the frontal lobe from the temporal lobe and parietal lobe from the temporal lobe as well. And then if you draw a line from here to here, that will divide your temporal lobe and parietal lobe from the occipital lobe. So there is one called pre-occipital notch around here and occipital temporal sulcus here, and then you draw a line that will separate your occipital lobe. So primary visual area is located in the occipital lobe around the calcarine sulcus, which are Brodmann areas 17, 18. And there are visual association areas which are responsible for the fixation of the eye. The involuntary is in the occipital lobe, and the voluntary fixation area is located in the frontal lobe. Okay. Now, before I go any further, okay, there are 4 different type of movement that I will have. Okay. So what are those movements? Before I go to the slide, let me tell you. One is called saccadic eye movement. Saccadic movement is that you jump from one to the other. Okay. So, you are looking for something. Okay. Say like you are looking for an object of your interest, but there are a lot of things there. So you just keep rolling your eyes in that area. It is not slowly moving. You are moving from one to the other to the other. So your gaze is fixated from one object to the other to the other to the other. So your gaze is jumping actually from one to the other. Just tracking. It's not tracking. It's you are looking for something, right? So that jumping movement, that is called the saccadic eye movement. So your gaze is fixed on one thing, then the other, then the other, and the other. It is like one movement is like that. We call saccadic eye movement. Next one is that if you find your object of interest, then you want to follow it. Okay. First of all, you see in a group of 1,000 people, you are looking for a person of interest. So you're just moving your gaze around the 1,000 people. Your eye is not fixated on one. You are looking at the whole group of people. Now one corner to the other corner to the other corner. So these movements are saccadic eye movement. Now, once you find your subject of interest or person of interest, then you want to follow that individual where they is going. So now that as the person move, you also move your eye, right? You keep following. So that following or tracking movement is called smooth pursuit. It's not rough movement from one spot to the other. You have your person of interest or you have your object of interest, and then you are following that object. As the object move, you are moving your eye gradually to keep your gaze fixated on your subject of interest or your object of interest. That tracking something slowly is called the smooth pursuit movement. So those are the 2 important movements you need to remember. Okay. That is how you fix your gaze on something. Now, as I said in the beginning, that the tracking device is our eyes, right? Eye is the tracking device that we are using. Now, our tracking device is placed on a stage which is mobile, which is not fixed. Our head is not fixed, right? Our head is moving. So when our head moves, say like I am fixated on something, I am trying to follow something, but my head moved. So as the stage moves, my tracking device need to move accordingly. Say like I am fixing my gaze on something. Now my head move like this. If my head move like this, my eyes need to move in the opposite direction to keep my gaze fixated on the object. Okay, so so how do I know that my head moved? That is the function of vestibular system. When our head moves, there are fluid inside the semicircular canal they move as well and they generate nerve impulse. That is a completely different issue. They move. So now if our head moves this way, the fluid, because of this initial inertia, they move the opposite direction and they produce a nerve signal that help us keep our balance. So that the nuclei that is responsible for that is the vestibular nucleus. Okay, so our vestibular nucleus will tell the brain that your head is moving to the right. Now brain has fixated the eye on one object. At that time, when the vestibular system will tell the brain that head is moving to the right, so the brain have to tell eye to move to the left to keep the gaze fixated on that object. Did you get it? It's not complicated, right? Say
I think it
something.
makes sense.
Okay. So just remember why it is necessary to do this type of movement, because the stage on which our tracking device is placed, that stage is movable. That stage moves. It's not like that your camera is fixated on a fixed stage. But you see, I don't know, have you seen in the movies when the cameraman does it, that camera is not fixed. Did you see that camera moves? So that camera is not on a stage that is fixed, because the camera, because by moving the camera you cannot capture all the actions. At some point your stage need to move as well. So now there should be a balance between the movement of the stage and movement of the camera, which is in our case it is the eye, right? So eye is the tracking device. So now number one is tracking device can move to fix its gauge on something, or it can follow an object. In both cases, which is moving here? Your tracking device is moving, your eye is moving. Either it is jumping from one spot to the other, or it is slowly moving. One we call saccadic eye movement, other one, the one gradually moving, we call smooth pursuit. Now, the problem is when the stage moves, we have to move our eye accordingly to fix our gauge on our object of interest or the person of interest. Okay. Now, then we will talk about a few mechanism of those. Let's see. Now, this is redirecting the gauge, right? So you are searching for something. That is saccadic movement. Like the target was here, and then you were fixated on this target, and then you jump to this target, and then you jump to something here, you jump to something there, you jump to something here. So these jumping movements, they are called saccadic movement, because you are looking for something. You haven't find it yet, so you scan through the whole. If you do smooth pursuit on 1,000 people, say like you go to the stadium, your friend was there as well in the same block, but even in the same block there are 5,000 people. So you have to find your friend from that 5,000 people. So you scan through the whole thing. You don't do smooth pursuit through the whole 5,000 people. You just have a rough, movement around the people. Oh, and then when even from the distance you are not sure, but that individual looks like that is your friend and that is your person of interest, then you fixate your gaze on that individual. See how, okay, so he was wearing or she was wearing a cap like that, and the shirt was like this, he was tall like this, or he was short like this. So you slowly scan that individual. That is not a saccadic movement, that is smooth pursuit. Now look at this one. Here you are looking for targets, okay, and your eye is moving randomly, saccadic movement. Now look at this one. You are following. You see, you're following with your eye, your continuous change in eye position. It's not continuous change, it's rapid change from here to here, from here to here, from here to there. But this one is you fixated your gaze on something, and then as the target moves, your eye slowly moves to the target so that your image on your retina is on the same place. Did you get that? In any question on this one about these two movements, about how we fix our gaze on something? Okay, let me tell you something. What type? So you know the map of our visual field, right?
Yes.
Oh, good. So is it so? If you map the visual field of our both eyes, are they all binocular, or there are some monocular areas as well?
Are you talking in terms of like there's a little bit of an overlapping in the field?
Not only overlapping, actually, there is a lot of overlapping in the middle. Okay, so why our visual field is not our visual, if you draw the map of the visual field, is it circular?
No.
It is not. Why it is not circular? Because if our eyes were outside, then it would be a circular visual field. But you see, our eyes are located inside the orbit, so you cannot see everything on the medial direction. Who is causing the problem? Your nose is obstructing your vision. So why the visual field is not circular? Because it's obstructed on the medial side by your nose, and on your superior side by the roof of your orbit. That make it a bit irregular. Actually, it had some restriction on the medial side because of the nose. It had some restriction on the superior direction because it is limited by the roof of the orbit. But if you draw the visual field of both eyes, there is a big area which is which has an overlapping. You see that particular part of the field with both eyes. We call them binocular vision, right? That vision is binocular, but if you close one eye, there will be some part seen by only this eye. You cannot see them anymore. Or if you block this one, you will lose a part of the visual field, which means that field is seen by only one eye. When you close the other, you cannot see that field. If you close this one, you cannot see some part of it. So if you close this one and your visual field become little smaller, what does that mean? That means this eye was seeing that particular area, only that eye was seeing that area. The binocular part you will not miss. Binocular part you will not miss even if you close one eye. But the monocular part, which is seen only by left eye or only by right eye, will be gone when you close one eye. So if you map your visual field, a part of it will be common. That part is seen by both eyes. Now, there is an important thing here. When you see the things on both eyes, even though you are seeing the same thing, say like if you have something, this slide is right in front of me. Okay, I am staring at this PowerPoint. Now, even if I close this one, I see this. If I close this one, I see this, which means this slide is within the range of my binocular vision, right? Okay, but the image is formed by both the retinas, right? This one is coming to this eye and goes to a particular area of the retina, and this one is coming to this eye, and this eye is forming an image as well. Now, there is a point, there is a thing we call corresponding point. Now, there is a corresponding point of this retina with this retina. So both this image coming from the same thing should be focused on the corresponding part of each retina so that we see one thing. If they go in two different areas, if they don't fall on the corresponding area of the retina, then we will see two things. We will see two slides like this. That is called that is a duplicate vision. Actually, I'm supposed to see one, even though one slide is seen by both of my eyes and the image is forming on both retinas, but I see one because they fuse together when they fall on, you see, like if this is a part of the retina, if this one form an image here, on this retina, there is a corresponding area for this one. So it have to be in that particular area. So both of these images, we don't think about it, but both of these, images will be formed in the corresponding part of both retinas, so that we don't see two slides, even though images are produced in two different retinas, but they are fused together so that we see only one thing. So that is an importance of binocular vision. That is there are, if you do you know what is CFF is, critical fusion frequency? Anyone, any idea?
No.
No. Okay, these are practical things, actually important. You see, when you see the movie, have you ever see a film, actual film of that movie? Have you ever seen that? So if you, so if you take a movie film, right? Those are just printed on a film, right? Those are captured on a film. If you see the film, you see individual frames, right? You see one frame here, one frame here. So somebody is jumping. So you see there are, for the jump, maybe there are 50 shots, right? Now, when you look at the film, they are individual shots. But when you go to the movie theater, you don't see individual shots. You see somebody is jumping, right? Somebody is jumping. How that happen? Because those are, when they are captured, they are actually individual frames. But when these frames are placed in front of our eyes, when we look at those frames, we have a capacity how long we can distinguish two shots as two different shots. If they move the projector at a speed beyond our critical fusion frequency, then we cannot determine those two shots as a single shot. So instead of 50 individual shots, I see somebody is jumping. Now, sometime you see, because of the problem in the now these movie theaters are very modern, you don't see much those things. But sometime, even for the to make things, they sometimes do some slow motion things, right? So what they do, they roll the projector in a speed which is slower, so that the things start to flicker. Actually, if you go too slow, then eventually we'll start seeing the individual frames. But when they roll the film in front of your eyes at a speed at which you cannot separate between the two individual shots, you will see things moving in front of your eyes. So that point where things, you cannot separate that anymore, it is called critical fusion frequency, or CFF. And if you roll the projector at a speed more than your CFF, then you don't see individual shot, you see something moving, a car is moving. But there are 100 individual shots. If you slow down the thing, then you will see the car was here, and then 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 here, like that. 100 shots like that. But then when you roll the tape at a speed higher than we can separate the individual shots, you see the car running. You see? But if you get a chance to look at the film, you see there is no moving things there. They are all individual. But they are rolling the tape in front of your eyes at a speed which is higher than your critical fusion frequency. So they become fused. Did you get it? Okay, so let me give you another example. So if you see two individual spots, okay, on something. So on a paper, I put two dots there. Now, if they are too close, at some point you will not see them as two dots, you see one dot. But if you put a magnifying glass on top of it, you say, oh, actually this is not a one big spot, actually two spots there, or four spots around. But when you see without magnification, you see one big spot. But if you take a magnifying glass over it, Because when you magnify the image, your eye can see those spots as separate spots. But when you don't magnify them, beyond your capacity of the eye to distinguish between two separate, the stimulus, you will see as one. See, what you see, if the clothing that you wear, if you put a magnifying glass on the clothing, you will see how the threads were running, right? But now do we see it? We don't see, because we see it all in one, because they are so close. The threads are so close to each other that we cannot see them as two different stimulus coming to our eyes. We see just one homogeneously distributed color. But if you magnify it at some, you see, at one point, someone, he was wearing, that he was a celebrity, actually big time celebrity, and he was wearing a suit. Okay, so there were some stripes in his suit, and so someone said, do you know the specialty? And they gave a price of this one that is beyond my, I cannot even think of that expensive suit. So they say, no, this one is custom made, and that much expensive is this one. I say, my goodness, it doesn't even make sense to me. They say, let me show you something so that you gradually will realize that why that was so expensive. So for me, when you look at his picture, you see he is wearing a suit with stripe, black with some stripes on it. And then as they focus on the stripes and they magnify it at a certain level, then you see those stripes. For us, for everybody, they will see a stripe. But when you magnify beyond a point, you will see stripes are not actually regular stripes. His name is written there. It's like this. But when you see it, it looks like a stripe on a solid color. But those stripes were not any regular stripe that even you magnify beyond a point. But why? The point that I'm trying to make is that why I just see at a white stripe rather than the letters of his name, because the letters of his name were written in a way that I cannot separate the individual letters. For me, they all came as a white stripe. But those white stripe is composed of small letters that my eyes cannot separate them. But when they were enlarged or magnified at a level within the capacity of the eye, now I can see these are not actually one continuous stripe, these are individual letters written there. So the point I'm trying to make is that we have a certain capacity to see something. There are people whose vision is better than my vision. So when I see two lines, one line, they may say, no, 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 this is not one line, there are two different lines actually. Because so if they magnify it, only in that case I can see the two lines. Okay. Now, those are not something very related to our thing, but you need to know actually what is the binocular vision, our field of vision, what is critical. Do you know the accommodation, right? Do you know what is accommodation? No? That is a bit strange. Do anyone of you know the process called accommodation?
Do you just mean like the change of like the lens shape?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that's all. It's nothing complicated. You see, as the thing come close to our eyes. Okay, so what type of lens do we have in our eye? Is it a convex lens or a concave lens? Oh, this is just regular physics. You see, the eye, the lens that we have in our eye, this is a convex lens, right? Now, a convex lens, the more the convex the lens is, more will be its refractive power, right? Now, for us to see something clearly, that image need to go to a particular area of our retina. What is that area called of the retina? Where the visual acuity is maximum. There is a point, there was a question in the exam and all of you answered it correctly. There is a point in our retina where the visual acuity is maximum. What is that area called?
Are you talking about the fovea?
Yes, this is called fovea, right? The fovea where the retina is several length, the layers thick, but in that fovea, retina is very thin, and we have two type of visual, the pigments. One is the receptor, one is rods and the cone, the photopigment receptors, and then cone is for bright light vision, color vision, and acuity of vision, right? And the rods are for dim light vision. That particular area, there is no rod there. It's only cones are densely packed, and the retina is much thinner. Okay, so the light doesn't have to pass through all 7-8 layers. They pass through thin part of the retina, and all the light is absorbed by the cones. And that area is called the fovea. So for us, when we want to examine a thing very closely, then the way our eye moves, all the light rays that are coming from that object will all focus on the fovea, so that we can see this object with maximum acuity. Okay, so for that happen, there are three things happen in the eye. That is the eye movement. Why eye movement is necessary? Like, see, I saw something and I want to have a very good focus on this one. So there are three things will happen in the eye. One is called accommodation. Accommodation is when a thing comes close to our eye, our ciliary muscle contracts so that our lens in the eye become more convex, so that we can see the object clearly. So that is the change in shape of lens to more convex is called accommodation. Two more things have to happen for us to see, to focus something and scan something very clearly. One is we call medial convergence of the eye. So both eye will medially converge so that we can focus our attention. Both eyes are focused on that object. So number one was accommodation. Number two was medial convergence of the eye. And number three, our pupil get constricted. So the pupil get constricted. So all the light that are coming from that object is focused right on the fovea. These three things together, accommodation, pupillary constriction, and medial convergence of the eye, these three things together are called near response. Why it is called near response? Because this thing happen when an object come near to us. So because I cannot focus like this on an object which is way far, right? But when the object is close to me, near to me, I make those three adjustments. One is accommodation, number two is medial convergence of the eye, and number three, pupillary constriction. These three things together make me see the object best possible capacity, with the best possible capacity of my eye. And these three things together, they are called accommodation. Not accommodation. Accommodation is one of the part of the three-part thing. They are called near response. Three things, near response. Okay, so accommodation, near response, light reflex. These are the things, some basic things you need to know and remember actually. Okay, so again, so two types of movement that will keep our, the way our eye will move. One is saccadic movement, other one is smooth pursuit movement, right? Now, look at this one, how you stabilize your gaze. Now, two things can happen. Now, look, this one is your surrounding is fixed, but your head is moving, which means your tracking device is fixed, your object is fixed, but your stage on which the tracking device is placed is moving. So you see your head is moving this way. Now, if your eye move on this way as well, do you think you will have your gaze stabilized on that surrounding, on that object? No, you will lose that. That will be out of your range of your eye. That will be out of your visual field. So to still keep the field on your visual field and maintain your gaze on that object, if your head rotates in this direction, your eye need to move in the counter direction, so that even though my head moves like this, my eye will move this way, so that I can still maintain my focus on this one. This is achieved by vestibulo-ocular reflex. So because you see, who will determine the rotation of the head? That is my vestibular system. One part of the vestibulocochlear nerve, right? Eighth cranial nerve. And then other one is called the optokinetic response, that is more like a smooth pursuit. So you see, now here the surrounding was fixed, but here surrounding is moving. Surrounding means your object of interest is moving. Even though your head is not moving, your eye is fixed. If your object of interest is moving, if you keep your eye in the same place, do you think you can see the object, or the object will still remain on your visual field? It will not. So that as the object moves slowly, you keep slowly rotating your eyes to follow the object. But there is a limit to it. You can do it only to a certain instant. Because if your head is fixed, you're looking at an object. Now the object is moving, you keep moving your eye. But if your head is fixed, if your stage is fixed, you cannot follow. Once it goes beyond your visual field, you cannot see it unless you move your head as well. So which means your stage is moving as well. Without moving a stage, you can, by moving the eyeball only, you can keep that object of interest on your focus for a certain time. After a certain limit, of course, it will either go and then you come back and find another object and follow it, and then you come back again, find another one, and then you follow, and then you go back again and then follow, like this. Okay, so that movement is saccadic movement, but as you follow, that is a smooth pursuit movement. Okay, so these are the two things, vestibulo-ocular reflex. And so let me show you an idea. So the saccadic movement, these are programmed in the frontal. Do you remember the things I showed you here on the frontal cortex? So the saccadic movements are programmed in the frontal cortex and in the superior colliculus. Do you know where can you tell me where the superior colliculus is? Which part of the brain? Superior colliculus. And superior colliculus and inferior colliculus, they together, they form tectum. Where is the tectum located? It's in the cerebral cortex, or go ahead.
It's in the midbrain, right?
Oh, wonderful. It's in the midbrain. So in the midbrain, there are superior colliculus, and then you have inferior colliculus. What can anyone tell me some other important parts of the midbrain? Absolutely important. You saw the midbrain sections the other day, right? Can you tell me something important in the midbrain other than superior colliculus, inferior colliculus? At the bottom of the midbrain, there are some white matter. They are called crus cerebri, right? Cerebral, or we say cerebral crus. They contain the fibers of the corticospinal tract, right? Now, above that, there are two round structures there in midbrain. What are those called? What type of nuclei? They give rise to a tract.
The red.
What is that?
The red nuclei.
Yes, red nucleus. So which tract arises from the red nucleus?
Rubrospinal.
Rubrospinal, wonderful. Good. So rubrospinal tract. Can you tell me what rubrospinal does? They are related to fine movement, or they are related to postural movement? Vestibulospinal tract will make us stand, right? It will make our back muscle straight. So which means vestibulospinal will control our extensor muscles, right? Extensor muscle tone is controlled by vestibulospinal tract, and rubrospinal tract will be responsible for flexor muscles, right? No, we are going off track. No, let's come back. So midbrain. So why we went there? Superior colliculus, right? Now the saccadic movement, they are programmed in frontal cortex, frontal lobe, and also in the superior colliculus. And the smooth pursuit movement, where you track something, that is programmed in cerebellum. Okay, so if you lose cerebellum, you will lose your smooth pursuit movement. But saccadic movement is programmed in superior colliculus and frontal cortex. So if you lose your superior colliculus, then you lose your saccadic movement. Can you tell me, when we read a newspaper or when you read a book, is it a saccadic movement or it's a pursuit movement? Smooth pursuit. Just guess. Give me a guess. Smart guess. Anyone? You see, it will be just either of two, either saccadic or smooth pursuit, right? What?
Guess smooth.
You said smooth? Good. Anyone having any different opinion, or everybody is in favor of smooth pursuit? Be courageous. You can say something. You don't have to follow the other lead. You speak your own mind. In fact, it is not smooth pursuit. Actually, at the beginning when I started thinking about it, to me it came to me that because we follow, right? We read through the letters of the book, but actually it is a saccadic movement. It's not smooth pursuit because we don't move our eyes from letter to letter, right? When we fix our gaze on something, we see almost about half a line. So we read that, and then we move our eye to next half line, then next half line, like that. So it depends on how large the fonts are and how big your book is. So if it is a small one, say like now you are reading a journal article, if they are arranged in 2 columns, you can see the one whole line actually in one at one look, right? So you don't have to smooth pursuit. You keep your eyes there, and then you read the whole column, and then you move to the next column, and then you read that one, and then you come to the next one. So when we read the newspaper or book or journal, we use the saccadic eye movement. It's not the smooth pursuit. Okay, now just for an idea, now let's see. So if my head is like this, right, and I have a object in my focus which is here, now if my head move like this, my eyes move on the other direction, right? Or if my eyes moved, you see, I am following an object, right? So if the object was right in front of me, now the object moved like this, so I move my eye like this. I didn't move my head, I just only roll my eyes that way. So if I move my eyes, do you think both these are called conjugate eye movement? So both of the eye, this eye will move in this direction, this eye will move in this direction. What is this direction movement called? You see, if the object moved to the left, this left eye will move laterally, right? Will move to the left. But which direction this eye have to move? This eye have to move on the medial direction. So left eye will move laterally, right eye have to move medially. If both of them move in lateral direction, so 2 eye will go in 2 directions, right? That's why they are called conjugate eye movement. They have conjugation. So if left eye move laterally, right eye have to move medially to follow an object. Now, just see how it happened. Now look at the in this case, the head is moving in right direction. Head is moving right. So now look at which direction this same, you didn't cover it, so I don't want you to understand it, but at least move and just try to understand that your head is moving in this direction. So if head move in this direction, this semicircular canal will not be active. This semicircular canal of this side will be active. So now they will send signal. Look at this one. They will send signal to the semicircular canals, and then from that they will go to the 6th nerve nucleus of the other side, and then 3rd nerve nucleus of this side. So third nerve nucleus of this one will cause the medial rectus to contract, and this one, the lateral rectus will contract. If both of them have medial rectus contracted, this eye will go in this direction, this eye will go in this direction. But the conjugate movement is, for this eye, this will move medially because this is midline, right? This eye is moving medially. This eye is moving away from the midline, so this is moving laterally. So when this eye move in the lateral direction, this eye move in medial direction, so that both of them move in one direction. That is why it is called conjugate eye movement, even though two eyes are moving in two different directions, but they are following the same object. One eye is moving left, other eye is moving right. One eye is moving in the lateral direction, other eye is moving in medial direction. Okay, like this one. So look at this one. So the solid lines here, and these lines are, and the grayed lines are the ones that are not active. So if this one is sending signal, it will go to the semicircular canal to the abducent of the other side. So this abducent is LR6, lateral rectus, right? So for this eye, lateral rectus will contract, so I will move laterally. For this eye, the medial rectus will contract, which means third nerve, medial rectus is third nerve. So this eye will move in the medial direction. So one is moving laterally, one is moving medially, and by doing that, they are keeping the object in the focus. And this is how the vestibulo, it's called VOR, the vestibulo-ocular reflex. The ultimate reflex is causing the movement of the eye, the ocular muscle, but it is initiated in the vestibular system. Where is the vestibular system located? At least know that they are located in the inner ear, just next to the hearing system. Hearing is by cochlea, and balance is by vestibular. Those are called vestibular apparatus. There are two types. It's not like one like cochlea. There are three semicircular canals, and one saccule and one utricle. You don't have to remember the name. At least know that the structures of the balance, they are located in the inner ear. They are semicircular canals and saccule utricles. When the head moves or our body moves, those things, fluid inside those tubes, they move as well, so that they send appropriate neuronal signal so that we can maintain our balance. Okay, now a lot of balance is dependent on the movement of the eye or of the visual signal. You see, did you see sometime if the police suspect someone of drunk driving, they ask them, they test their vestibular function, and they want them to keep their eyes closed. If their eyes closed, because because of they are drunk, their system of balance is lost, but the balance they maintain at that time is only by looking at something, by their visual system. But when the police will ask them to close their eye, they will completely lose their balance. Okay, so again, all I want you to remember is the structures that maintain balance are located in the middle ear, and they relate to the vestibular nuclei, and eventually they send signal to the brain to maintain balance. And when our head rotates, to keep our eye fixated or keep our gaze fixated on a particular object, it is done by a reflex called a vestibulo-ocular reflex. Why it is called vestibulo-ocular? Because it is generated by vestibular system, and it is implemented by the movement of the ocular muscles, contraction of the ocular muscle and movement of the eye. Okay, I think we are very close to 12. I know some of you have things to do at noon. So let's stop here, and let me stop sharing now. So do you have any question? Any question about anything? If not, let's stop here. And as I said, I will be available on the 16th. That is 16th, right? So today, let me see. Today is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th. Yeah, I will be available. I will log in to this Zoom on 16th at 10:30. If you have any question about any part of the motor system or any question or concern about exam or any suggestion to improve the course, you are welcome to join. And right after that meeting on the noon on 16th, I will send you the exam questions for the motor system. Okay. Okay, so are you all okay? Shall I stop this session now?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.